Mistress burned all the pregnant wife clothes, and the millionaire helped her light the match. There are moments in life when a single spark can ignite more than just kindling, it can set entire futures ablaze. In the heart of Raleigh, North Carolina, a mysterious mistress and a powerful millionaire locked eyes for reasons far beyond simple attraction. The rumor that she burned all the baby clothes sent shockwaves through high society, but what truly rattled everyone was that he helped her strike the match. Why would two seemingly respectable figures commit such an act of devastation, and whose future was reduced to ashes that night, prepare to delve into a labyrinth of ambition, betrayal, and obsession? Bianca Worthington had never been one for loud gestures. She grew up in the outskirts of Raleigh, a place where rolling fields met the horizon, where thunderstorms and cicadas defined the rhythm of summer evenings. Her parents, Delilah and Frank Worthington, were everyday folks who believed in decency and integrity. They taught her that hard work and honesty would pave the way for success. But in a quiet house, secrets could form like cobwebs in the corners. From the outside, Bianca was a sweet, determined young woman attending community college. On the inside, she was restless. She yearned for excitement, for passion, for the extravagant life she glimpsed through magazines or overheard in gossip about the local elites in Raleigh. Though her parents' means were modest, her imagination soared, painting lush pictures of a life in penthouses, private jets, and endless couture. She had the looks for it too. Tall and lean, with deep green eyes and a smouldering presence, Bianca could hold a room captive with just a glance. Yet she remained humble only because she hadn't yet had her taste of the power her charms could offer. She was nursing a secret, an insatiable desire to climb the social ladder, to break free from the ordinariness that her parents had accepted as their lifelong fate. It was the summer before her final year in college when Bianca first heard whispers of a towering millionaire moving to town, Henry Goodwin, rumored to be the co-founder of a successful tech startup. Gossip said he'd recently arrived from Silicon Valley after partnering on a few innovations with well-known tycoon Bill Gates. Some said Henry was a genius coder. Others claimed his real skill was in forging alliances with the biggest names in the industry. Regardless of the origin of his wealth, the same rumor always surfaced. Henry Goodwin was filthy rich, lived in a mansion on Bent Creek Avenue, and had a reputation for controlling everything and everyone around him. The day Bianca first passed by that mansion, she felt an inexplicable pull. High gates, ornate with swirling iron, guarded a sprawling garden. Beyond those gates, she saw marble fountains, rose bushes, and a driveway that seemed longer than the roads leading out of her little hometown. Standing there, she breathed in the sweet summer air and felt the wind whisper a promise. There was something extraordinary waiting for her behind those walls. At the time, she didn't realize how the glamorous illusions she cherished could spiral into a thunderous reality, one involving heartbreak, obsession, and destruction that would stain her name across high society circles. And so, in that deceptively peaceful chapter of her life, she allowed her curiosity to flourish. It was the quiet before the storm, the hush of a small house in Raleigh that barely hinted at the chaos destined to claim it. Bianca Worthington heard the name Henry Goodwin long before he ever stepped onto Raleigh's social scene. He was whispered about in coffee shops and co-working spaces, on college bulletin boards, and in city council meetings. The speculations were endless. Some said he had made his first million at 25 by investing in innovative tech startups that aligned with giants like Microsoft. Others claimed he had a gift for negotiation so uncanny that it bordered on sorcery. He would walk into any boardroom, and within minutes, the entire room would pivot to his agenda. By the time he moved to Raleigh, he was said to be worth hundreds of millions, perhaps more. And yet, despite his reputation for philanthropy, he kept himself cloaked in an air of mystery that only fueled public curiosity. Bianca was intrigued the moment she heard he would be hosting a grand charity gala at the Harrington, a luxurious hotel famed for its crystal chandeliers and sweeping marble staircases. She was a 22-year-old junior at a small community college, still juggling classes and a part-time job at a trendy boutique. Glamorous events like the Goodwin Foundation Gala were far beyond her usual circle, which revolved more around textbooks, second-hand shops, and weekend get-togethers with her close friends. Nevertheless, she couldn't help daydreaming about being part of this glittering world. She fantasized about strolling past red carpets, wearing a dress that made heads turn, and crossing paths with the city's elite. So when her friend Adrienne Carter, who volunteered at the Goodwin Foundation, offered her an extra ticket, Bianca nearly dropped her phone in disbelief. It felt surreal to receive an embossed, gold-lettered invitation that read, "The Goodwin Foundation cordially requests the pleasure of your company at the annual charity gala, hosted by Henry Goodwin." She spent the entire week caught between excitement and self-doubt. Could she fit in with that crowd? She didn't have a designer dress or a polished upbringing, but Adrienne was insistent. "You deserve a taste of the high life, B. You work so hard, let yourself enjoy it for one night." The evening of the gala arrived, and Bianca meticulously got ready in her small, tidy bedroom. She had purchased an elegant black gown from a consignment shop, a piece that looked new, save for a barely noticeable stitch on one of the seams. The dress hugged her figure just enough to highlight her slender curves without seeming overly provocative. She styled her hair into a loose updo, leaving a few tendrils framing her face, then carefully applied her makeup, opting for subtle smoky eyes and a soft pink lip. Before leaving, she practiced a poised smile in the mirror, imagining how she might appear to the city's wealthiest patrons. By the time she reached the Harrington, her heart was drumming a furious rhythm in her chest. Valets rushed forward to open car doors, and clusters of arriving guests in designer ensembles swept through the towering entrance. Inside, she was greeted by the subdued glow of chandeliers and a live string quartet playing classical music. Uniformed attendants offered flutes of champagne to guests who chatted behind crystal partitions. Everywhere she looked, the decor oozed opulence, from the gilded mirrors lining the foyer to the velvet drapes that framed the double doors leading to the main ballroom. Bianca tried to quell her nerves as she passed through those doors into a scene straight out of her wildest fantasies. The ballroom was a sea of sparkling gowns, tailored suits, and confident smiles. Waiters glided between groups of conversing philanthropists, venture capitalists, and socialites. The air was perfumed with exotic flowers arranged in towering centerpieces, and soft jazz music wafted through hidden speakers, blending seamlessly with the gentle hum of polite laughter. Then she saw him standing near the front of the room, Henry Goodwin, the man of the hour. Even in a crowd of striking individuals, he stood out, tall and broad-shouldered. He wore a midnight blue suit that fit him like a second skin, his shirt collar open without a tie. His dark hair was impeccably groomed, and a watch with a gleaming silver band adorned his wrist. Although he was in the center of a conversation, his posture radiated control, and every so often he would cast a discerning glance around the room, as if assessing its energy. Their first contact came almost by accident. Bianca was navigating her way around a server who balanced an enormous tray of champagne glasses when she stumbled on the hem of her gown. In a flurry of embarrassment, she lurched backward, colliding with a solid figure. Warm, steady hands gripped her shoulders to keep her upright. Turning to apologize, she found herself face to face with Henry Goodwin himself. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice low and calm. His grey eyes scanned her features with concern and a hint of curiosity. Bianca's heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. I'm fine," she managed. cheeks flushing with a mix of mortification and awe. "Sorry, I nearly caused a scene." He smiled, a subtle lift of the corners of his mouth that somehow radiated both charm and power. "No need to apologize, let's just call it an unplanned introduction." She couldn't help a small laugh, relief flooding her. "I guess so. I'm Bianca Worthington." "Henry Goodwin," he said, releasing his gentle hold on her shoulders. "Pleasure to meet you, Bianca." Any illusions she might have held about his reputation came rushing to the forefront of her mind, but nothing could match the electricity she felt in the brief moment he touched her. She sensed a kind of magnetism around him, as though the rest of the room had momentarily receded into background noise. He guided her toward the edge of the ballroom, away from the bustling crowd. They spoke for only a few minutes, exchanging light remarks about the gala, her background as a student, and his goals for the foundation. But every word between them seemed weighted with possibility. She couldn't recall what she said, something about how grateful she was for the chance to attend, how the city admired him for his philanthropy, but she remembered the way he looked at her, a steady, assessing gaze that made her pulse quicken. Then, with an apologetic shrug, he excused himself to address the line of people waiting to speak with him. Yet as he turned away, he offered her a final, lingering glance, a silent promise that they would see each other again before the night ended. Bianca stood there, breathless, champagne flute trembling slightly in her hand. She knew nothing concrete about Henry Goodwin, aside from the whispered rumors and the few sentences he had uttered. But in that charged interaction, she felt the first spark of something electric, something that could either illuminate her path or burn her beyond repair. In that moment, the opulent ballroom faded, and all she could think about was the quiet, commanding warmth in Henry Goodwin's grey eyes. He wasn't just a headline or a whispered legend anymore. He was a presence that stirred her blood, making her wonder how drastically this single meeting might alter the trajectory of her life. Weeks passed after the gala. Bianca often replayed those few moments with Henry in her mind, analyzing every expression he'd made, every word exchanged. Did he see something in her? Or was she just another face in the crowd? The uncertainty ate at her. Despite her restless anticipation, she continued her routine. She took her morning classes, worked part-time at a small boutique, and spent evenings scrolling through social media, half hoping to see news or sightings of Henry Goodwin. Occasionally, local tabloids mentioned his name, charitable endeavors, or rumors about new business deals, but there was no mention of any personal relationships. Then, one late summer evening, as Bianca wrapped up her shift at the boutique, she noticed a sleek black limousine idling near the curb. She brushed it off, assuming it belonged to a wealthy shopper waiting inside one of the nearby shops. But once she stepped out and walked down the quiet sidewalk, the limousine's tinted window rolled down. A chauffeur leaned out. "Miss Bianca Worthington?" She froze, eyes wide. "Yes." "This is for you," he said, handing her a white envelope. Embossed with the initials HG inside was a single card with no more than a line or two. "I'd like to see you. 7 p.m. tomorrow at Le Jardin. Table 12, HGBIANCA's heart hammered in her chest. No phone number, no further instructions, yet the message was clear. Henry Goodwin was summoning her in his subtly commanding way. Le Jardin was the most upscale restaurant in Raleigh. She had never even dared to step foot in its velvet-curtained dining rooms. And now she was invited by the man himself. The following evening, Bianca arrived at Le Jardin in a simple yet elegant navy dress. Nervous energy fluttered in her stomach as she wove through the tables, following the maitre d' toward table 12. Even in a crowd of elites, Henry stood out. He wore a charcoal grey suit with a crisp white shirt, no tie, and a watch that likely cost more than her parents' house. He rose to greet her with a polite smile. "I'm glad you came." Bianca settled into her seat, trying to calm the swirl of questions in her mind. "I was surprised to get your note." Henry shrugged casually. You made an impression at the gala. I don't often meet people who seem genuine. Her cheeks warmed. The conversation started cordially enough. He asked about her studies, her hobbies, her aspirations, but Henry was a master at probing beneath the surface, like a detective scanning for hidden stories. Bianca soon confessed her dreams of living a bigger life, away from her quiet upbringing. I want to break out of the ordinary, she murmured, swirling the wine in her glass. Henry's gaze flickered with interest. I see, he said, taking a measured sip of his own. I like ambition. You might even say, I collect it. Before dessert arrived, Henry proposed an irresistible deal. He wanted to sponsor her, to provide for her needs, and to open doors she never thought possible. In exchange, she would give him her undivided loyalty, both physically and emotionally. It was a proposition that hovered somewhere between a mentorship and a twisted courtship. Though Bianca might have heard alarm bells, she found herself drawn to this dangerous path. That night, she said yes, without fully grasping the magnitude of the vow she had made. In the weeks that followed, Bianca entered a new life. She was whisked away from the quiet suburbs into Henry Goodwin's lavish inner circle. Designer clothing replaced her modest wardrobe. A gleaming sports car, courtesy of Henry, sat in her driveway one morning. Suddenly, her phone was buzzing with invitations to exclusive events. During this time, Henry insisted she spend more evenings at his mansion. The grand estate on Bent Creek Avenue was bigger and more opulent than Bianca had ever imagined. Ornate tapestries lined the foyer. Glistening chandeliers illuminated rooms the size of entire apartment floors. Priceless art hung in hallways that led to hidden rooms, each more luxurious than the last. Yet amid the glamour lurked shadows of secrets. Over dinner, Henry would talk animatedly about his business ambitions, forging ties with other tech giants, even hinting at deals with Elon Musk or Warren Buffett. But he seldom offered any personal anecdotes. Whenever Bianca pried about his past, he grew quiet, deflecting her curiosity with a smooth change of subject. One night, she found him alone in his study, a cavernous room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a moonlit rose garden. He stood with his back to her, a glass of bourbon in hand. You have an entire staff. Why do you look so lonely? Bianca asked gently, stepping inside. He turned, his gaze distant. You'd be amazed at how isolation can wrap itself around you when you've built walls this high. She joined him by the window. A sense of intimacy crackled between them. He leaned closer, brushing the hair from her face. I'm not interested in small talk or superficial relationships, Bianca. I have those in spades. I want something real. Her heart soared at the idea that perhaps she was not just another acquisition for him, but someone who could offer genuine companionship. Foolishly, she let herself believe that beneath the calculating businessman lay a man yearning for a deeper connection. But the whispers around the mansion suggested otherwise. House staff seemed guarded in Bianca's presence. Maids, cooks, and groundskeepers offered polite smiles, but they rarely engaged her in friendly chatter. There was a rumor that Henry had once been involved with someone else, a woman whose name was never mentioned openly. But the staff's hushed tones and exchanged glances hinted at tragedy, heartbreak, or worse. Undeterred, Bianca continued her liaison. The dreamlike quality of her new existence dulled her instincts. Each time Henry enveloped her in his arms, she felt she was on the cusp of the life she'd always wanted. Yet a gnawing sensation told her that she was stumbling into a labyrinth of hidden corridors, and at the center lay a secret that could unravel everything. Little did she know, a single flame would soon expose these shadows. The match, once struck, would cast a glaring light on truths better left in the dark. Bianca first sensed a shift in Henry's demeanor when she found him pacing the veranda one afternoon, phone glued to his ear. His voice, usually composed, held a tremor of agitation. Don't be ridiculous, he snapped, pressing fingers to his temples. Just deal with it. I'm not paying you for incompetence. He abruptly ended the call, noticing Bianca's presence. Forced warmth replaced his frown. Work troubles, he explained. I'll spare you the details. Yet, the tension lingered in his eyes. Bianca tried to brush it off, but that night, she received a cryptic text from an unknown number. Don't trust him. He's covering more than you know. She stared at her phone, chills rippling through her. Who could it be? A jealous staff member? An ex-lover? Regardless, the message fanned the embers of her unease. At dinner that evening, her appetite waned. She toyed with her fork, stealing glances at Henry. He was discussing a new charitable initiative, but his words passed through her like static. Suddenly, she thought about the rumor of a former relationship, the one staff members refused to discuss. Her mind spun. Could Henry be harboring an entire life he'd never revealed to her? The next day, curiosity got the better of her. She explored the second-floor hallway that Henry had repeatedly asked her to avoid, citing renovations. In truth, the corridor's dim lighting and drawn curtains gave it an abandoned feel. Painted portraits of austere-looking ancestors glowered from the walls. At the far end stood a closed door. She approached quietly and turned the knob. The room inside was a nursery. A soft pink wallpaper peeled slightly at the edges. A rocking chair stood by the window, covered in a thin layer of dust. A baby's crib, empty, forlorn, dominated the center. Bianca's heart pounded. Why would Henry have a nursery if he lived alone? She inched forward and noticed a stack of old baby clothes, folded neatly in a corner. A lullaby mobile hung above the crib, its colors faded with neglect. She reached for one of the tiny outfits, a pastel onesie, her mind racing with possibilities. She nearly jumped out of her skin when she heard Henry's voice behind her. I told you this area was off limits. She spun around, guilt flushing her cheeks. I'm sorry, His expression was thunderous, but the anger soon dissolved into a stony resignation. That belonged to someone I cared about once. It's all in the past now. Bianca swallowed hard. Did you have a child? Henry's eyes clouded, and he shook his head in a complicated gesture of denial and regret. Not exactly. It's a painful story, Bianca, one I don't talk about. Though he offered no further explanation, the pain etched on his features made her chest tighten. With trembling hands, she replaced the baby clothes. She wanted to comfort him, but Henry retreated into himself. That night, Bianca couldn't sleep. The memory of that empty nursery haunted her dreams, its silent lullaby a question she could not ignore. Something was amiss in Henry Goodwin's life, and she was inching closer to a secret that could consume them both. It was at a high-profile tech conference in Charlotte where the next piece of the puzzle emerged. Henry insisted Bianca accompany him, although she felt out of place among innovators and angel investors. The event was a flurry of glass-walled exhibition booths, sleek demonstration stages, and business card exchanges that signaled deals worth millions. She found herself alone at the conference's buffet table, selecting hors d'oeuvre she could barely pronounce, when a striking woman in a fiery red blazer approached. Her hair was a cascade of jet-black curls, and her eyes held a piercing intensity that made Bianca's stomach clench with instinctive caution. "You're Henry's new girl," the woman said, not bothering with a greeting. "You're Bianca, right?" Bianca offered a polite, if uncertain smile. "Yes, and you are?" "Camilla Rossi," the woman replied. I was Henry's partner. In more ways than one, the conversation that followed held an undercurrent of threat, like a prowling tiger behind a thin chain-link fence. Camilla spoke in clipped phrases about how she and Henry had co-founded a biotech startup years ago, forging an empire with their combined brilliance and ambition. She implied they were once deeply involved on a personal level too, though she refused to specify the timeline. Henry has a way of collecting people, Camilla remarked casually, sipping her champagne. He sees something he desires, talent, beauty, a hungry heart, and he draws them in. Bianca bristled at the insinuation that she was merely a trophy, a bauble. Yet she couldn't deny the flush of insecurity creeping up her neck. "We have a genuine connection," she insisted. Camilla offered an enigmatic smile. "I used to think that, too. Let's hope you don't end up like the others." Before Bianca could press for details, Henry appeared, face taut with disapproval. He placed a protective hand on Bianca's waist. "Camilla," he said evenly, "I see you're still making an entrance." She laughed, but her eyes flashed with an unreadable emotion. "Just reminiscing, Henry. I'll leave you two lovebirds to enjoy the night." After she left, Bianca turned to Henry, a barrage of questions on her tongue. "She said you were partners. Why haven't you mentioned her?" "Because she's irrelevant," he replied curtly, his gaze following Camilla's departing figure. "Her company parted ways with mine years ago. She lives on drama and old wounds." Yet as the evening wore on, Bianca sensed Henry's composure was rattled. She saw him scanning the crowd, as if expecting more ghosts from his past to materialize. He drank more than usual, his jaw set in tension. Something about Camilla's presence had cut deeper than he cared to admit. Later that night, in the privacy of their hotel suite, Bianca tried to console him. "I want to understand. If we're going to build a future, I need to know about your past." He looked at her with an intensity that bordered on desperation. "Sometimes ignorance is safer for both of us." Bianca fell silent, torn between an unquenchable need to uncover Henry's secrets and a growing fear of what lay behind the curtain. She thought about the dusty nursery, the folded baby clothes, and an ex-partner whose very mention made him tremble. The path she'd chosen with Henry was starting to feel less like a fairy tale and more like a labyrinth with no guaranteed way out. Life proceeded at breakneck speed. Henry's business deals soared, and Bianca was thrust into a whirlwind of galas, fundraisers, and private soirees. Each event offered a glittering slice of high society, but it also chipped away at her sense of normalcy. Newspapers snapped photos of them together, speculating about their relationship status, painting Bianca as a social climber or the mysterious new flame of the reclusive tech tycoon. Despite the tabloids, she found herself in deeper conflict, plagued by unanswered questions. The memory of the empty nursery haunted her. Late one evening, after a particularly extravagant fundraiser, she returned to Henry's mansion. The house was dark, the staff retired. Sleep eluded her as thoughts of Camilla Rossi's cryptic warning replayed in her head. Guided by moonlight, Bianca crept upstairs. The corridor leading to the nursery seemed more foreboding at night, but she couldn't resist the pull any longer. She entered the room, flicking on a small lamp. She scanned the nursery for a clue, a diary, a photograph, anything that might shed light on its meaning. The baby clothes remained folded, neat as ever. Hesitant, she picked up a soft pastel blue sweater. A faint scent of lavender clung to the fabric, as if it had been lovingly stored with scented sachets. A sudden shuffle of footsteps startled her. She whirled around to find Henry in the doorway, his expression a furious storm. He walked in and grabbed the sweater from her hands, eyes blazing. "I warned you to stay out," he growled. Bianca steadied herself, fear mixed with concern. "Henry, the first can't keep pretending this doesn't exist. Why is there a nursery here? Why are there baby clothes if you've never—" He cut her off, his voice raw. "I tried to keep you away from this because I know how it looks. I once loved someone deeply, and we planned a future together. This nursery was meant for our child." His voice trembled. "But there was no child. She lost the baby early on. It was devastating." Tears pricked Bianca's eyes. She reached for him. "I'm sorry." Henry swallowed hard. "You don't understand." "She blamed me, said the stress of my lifestyle caused the miscarriage. When she left everything behind this nursery, the clothes she'd picked out, our entire shared dream." A heavy silence pressed against them. Finally, Bianca mustered the courage to ask, "Was she Camilla?" He shook his head. "No, Camilla was just a business partner. The woman who owned these clothes was named Annalise. She was my fiancée." His voice nearly broke. "She disappeared from my life completely." Bianca's heart twisted. Part of her was relieved to have some explanation, but she sensed there was more to the story. Henry's gaze, filled with pain, flickered over the baby clothes. "Then why keep these clothes?" she whispered. He exhaled slowly. "I couldn't bear to destroy them. Even though seeing them kills me each time, it's like letting them go would erase everything." Yet neither of them could predict the dark turn that would come, the blaze that would consume these tiny garments, and the secrets they symbolized forever. Despite Henry's revelation, Bianca couldn't shake the feeling that a vital piece of the puzzle was missing. If he had been engaged, why was there no record of Annalise anywhere? No photos, no social media footprints, not even a mention in the local rumour mill. It was as if she'd never existed. But life thrust Bianca into the role of Henry's official companion now. They made public appearances, attended luxury auctions, and even made philanthropic visits to schools and hospitals. The more Bianca wore her new social standing like a badge of honor, the more she felt the weight of being watched by both society and Henry's own circle. The turning point came at a fundraiser for pediatric healthcare. Bianca had helped organize the event, championing the cause of neonatal care. On stage, Henry presented a sizable check. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment for local news outlets. In the front row, Bianca spotted a figure glowering at her, Camilla Rossi, arms crossed, wearing a faint smirk. Fear coiled in Bianca's stomach. During the reception that followed, Camilla cornered her. "Baby's on the brain, I see," she said, raising an eyebrow at the event's theme. "Tell me, do you actually care about the children, or is it just for Henry's sake?" Bianca bristled. "Don't question my motives. I'm here to help these kids." Camilla's expression softened in mock sympathy. "Ah, so you must think you're different from all the others. You actually believe you matter to Henry." Bianca felt her composure slipping. "I know who I am to him. Do you?" Camilla leaned in conspiratorially. "Henry Goodwin thrives on power plays. He manipulates with money, secrets, and illusions of love. And you're exactly his type, naive, determined, eager to be someone. Trust me, you're not the first, and you certainly won't be the last." Before Bianca could respond, Camilla strutted away, leaving her shaken. A part of Bianca knew she was stepping into a minefield by choosing to remain with Henry. But the alternative, abandoning him, giving up her newfound life, felt unthinkable, yet it was the press coverage the next morning that shifted the narrative. Local tabloids labelled Bianca the millionaire's mistress, implying that Henry was still haunted by a former fiancée and hadn't fully committed to his new flame. With headlines like "Inside Henry Goodwin's Mansion of Secrets," the media painted Bianca as a cunning seductress exploiting Henry's vulnerabilities. Henry slammed the papers onto the breakfast table. "This is nonsense," he growled. "I want you to know it's not true." Bianca tried to console him. "I'm just worried about how this affects you. The board, your investors, they might see me as a liability." In response, he held her close. "No one will ruin this for us. I'll make sure of it." But even as he whispered reassurances, a faint darkness lingered in his eyes. The more the world labelled her as his mistress, the more she felt a sinister electricity crackling between them. She was the mistress in the tabloids. Yes, but was she also a pawn, a stand-in, or something more complicated? Unknown to Bianca, the storm was about to intensify. The baby clothes, the fragile symbol of a shattered dream, were about to become the fuse that ignited an inferno no one would forget. A month later, tension in the mansion was palpable. Henry's business empire was thriving, but his public image had taken a hit from tabloids. The staff walked on eggshells. Bianca felt the shift most acutely. The sweet interludes she once shared with Henry had grown rare. Now, business calls and terse silences filled their evenings. One night, during a particularly heated argument about Bianca's constant presence in the press, Henry snapped, "I've worked my entire life to build a pristine reputation, and now it's all overshadowed by scandal." Bianca flinched. "I never asked to be part of a scandal, and I certainly didn't ask to be called a mistress." His eyes flashed. "Then what do you want to be called, Bianca? My partner, my wife?" Don't you see how naive that sounds? The sting of his words left her feeling exposed. In anger and frustration, she stormed out of the mansion, driving aimlessly through the Raleigh streets. Confusion battered her. She loved Henry, or at least the version he showed her. But maybe Camilla had been right. Maybe she was another disposable piece in Henry's grand puzzle. It was nearly midnight when she returned, uncertain whether to collect her belongings or attempt reconciliation. She found Henry in his study, a half-empty glass of whiskey on his desk. The quiet gloom shrouded him, and in his eyes she saw regret. "You're right," he said, voice hoarse. "I shouldn't have spoken to you like that." She sank into a leather chair opposite him. Silence stretched, broken only by the distant hum of the air conditioning. Finally, Henry rose and walked to the fireplace. He pulled open a drawer, retrieving a stack of baby clothes, those very outfits Bianca had seen in the nursery. "I've been clinging to these for far too long," he muttered. "It's time to let go." He dropped them into the empty fireplace. Bianca's breath caught in her throat. "Henry, are you sure?" He struck a match, the tiny flame dancing in the dim light. For a moment, doubt flickered across his features. Then, resolute, he dropped the match onto the clothes. They smouldered, a slow burn that ate into the soft cotton and lace. The smell of smoke curled around them, an acrid farewell to a painful chapter. Bianca watched, heart pounding, a swirl of emotions clouding her mind. Part of her wanted to snatch the clothes out of the fire, to preserve this piece of Henry's history, no matter how tragic. Another part of her recognized that he was severing a tie to a ghost that tormented him, and maybe it would free him to fully embrace a future with her. The fire crackled, flames dancing higher. Henry's expression hardened, as though scorched by memories. Without a word, he slipped an arm around Bianca. She leaned into him, tears threatening. In that moment, their bond felt forged anew, united in their shared destruction of the past. Little did they know, the consequences of this act would ripple outward like a shockwave, dragging forth old enemies and new betrayals. The seemingly simple act of burning baby clothes was a match poised to ignite a far more devastating firestorm. 2 days later, Raleigh's social media channels erupted like a hive stirred by a stick. A single photo posted online captured Bianca and Henry in his study, the fireplace still glowing with dying embers. Someone, a staff member, an intruder, or maybe an uninvited guest had snapped the incriminating picture through a window. The snapshot showed Bianca in a shadowy silhouette, standing beside Henry as baby clothes smoked in the flames. It didn't take long for rumors to escalate. Henry Goodwin and his mistress burn baby clothes. Was it evidence of a hidden pregnancy, tragedy, or malice? Mistress sets baby clothes ablaze in Millionaire's mansion. Who was the baby? Are they covering up an unspeakable secret? The headlines took on a life of their own, twisting the reality of a private moment. Traditional tabloids and viral YouTube channels dedicated segments to dissecting the possible reasons. The speculation ran wild. Some claimed Bianca was pregnant and had suffered a miscarriage. Others said Henry forced Bianca to destroy evidence of an illegitimate child. Frantic, Bianca confronted Henry with her phone in hand, articles streaming across the screen. "What do we do? The press is hounding me. My parents are being called by reporters." Henry's face was like granite, every muscle drawn tight. "No one speaks to the press. Deny everything. We can't feed this fire." But the damage was done. Gossip had always fascinated Bianca from a distance. But now she was in its eye, and it felt like drowning. Strangers online hurled insults and wild theories as if her life were a soap opera for their entertainment. The boutiques she used to frequent whispered behind her back. A local news van appeared outside her parents' modest home, pestering them for a quote. Henry's mansion, once a haven, felt like a prison under siege. Cameras flashed through the iron gates. Everyone wanted a glimpse, a comment, a new piece of the puzzle. Bodyguards escorted Bianca whenever she stepped out, their presence a constant reminder of the threats that lurked. Trying to regain control, Henry hosted a private press conference at a secluded venue. Only select media outlets were invited, presumably those with which he had friendly relations. He made a concise statement. The photo is misleading. My fiancé and I, he paused. The word fiancé sending shockwaves through the small crowd, chose to dispose of old items that carried painful memories. It was a personal matter. We ask for privacy and respect. For a brief moment, Bianca felt relief at the word fiancé. Maybe Henry was taking a stand, claiming her as more than just a mistress. Yet a part of her wondered if this announcement was merely a strategy to quell the media storm. Regardless, the press conference fueled new headlines. Henry Goodwin announces engagement amid scandal. The speculation pivoted. Was the engagement real or a cover-up for something darker? The scandal only grew. Old acquaintances of Henry emerged with half-truths about his mysterious past. Camilla Rossi granted an exclusive interview, dropping vague hints of previous tragedies and dark secrets in Henry's life. The more he tried to tighten the reins, the more the rumor mill churned. Bianca found herself in the crosshairs, labeled everything from a gold digger to a sinister villain, and in the swirling chaos, no one seemed concerned with the truth. They only wanted a story, preferably one that ended in flames. Henry's announcement of their engagement was a turning point, one that forced Bianca to confront the stark reality of their relationship. Had he proposed out of genuine love, or to orchestrate a narrative that absolved him of scandal? Regardless, the wedding rumors circulated, and invitations were being whispered about in society circles. Bianca's parents, Delilah and Frank, were both proud and unsettled. They liked Henry's polished charm, but the swirling rumors frightened them. When they met with Henry at a private dinner, Delilah gently asked, "Are you sure you're both ready for marriage, given everything that's happened?" Henry offered a poised smile. "I love your daughter, Miss S. Worthington. I will do everything in my power to protect her." Despite the civility, Bianca sensed an undercurrent of tension, as though Henry was performing for an audience. She said nothing, hoping to cling to the idea that love might yet bloom fully between them. But the illusions cracked further when Camilla Rossi struck again, this time publicly. She filed a lawsuit against Henry, claiming breach of contract on a project they had once co-developed. Camilla's legal team strategically leaked documents suggesting Henry had manipulated finances and overshadowed her contributions. In a damning press conference, Camilla stated, "I only want transparency. Henry Goodwin has a pattern of bending people to his will, his employees, his partners, even the women in his life. He discards them when they outlive their usefulness." Though the lawsuit dealt with technical business matters, the subtext was clear. Camilla intended to bring Henry's personal life into the legal fray, possibly dragging Bianca into depositions and witness stands. The question of the burned baby clothes hovered like a phantom, threatening to resurface in court. Anxiety gnawed at Bianca. She tried talking to Henry about settling with Camilla out of court. "Why not pay her what she's asking?" she pleaded. "It'll end the scandal." He clenched his jaw. "If I cave, she'll think I'm weak. That's not how I operate." His refusal spurred Camilla to double down, using every media outlet to paint him as a tyrant. As the tension escalated, Bianca found herself caught in the crossfire. Paparazzi followed her everywhere. She received hateful messages accusing her of cruelty for burning baby clothes. She barely recognized her own life anymore. Amid the storm, a letter arrived at the mansion. It was addressed to Henry, but he was in a meeting. Curious and desperate, Bianca opened it and froze. Inside was a legal document detailing parental rights, with the name Annalise Carter Goodwin scrawled at the top. The letter implied that Henry and Annalise had married secretly before her miscarriage. Her heart hammered. This changed everything. If he was legally bound to Annalise, then Henry's entire relationship with Bianca was built on a lie. She read further, skimming through dense legal jargon that hinted at a property settlement, as if Annalise still had claims to Henry's estate. The baby clothes were only part of a larger tapestry of betrayal. Suddenly, footsteps echoed. Henry entered the room, his face clouding as he spotted the opened envelope in Bianca's trembling hands. A suffocating silence fell between them. "Care to explain?" Bianca whispered, tears brimming. His jaw tightened, eyes flickering with guilt and anger. "You shouldn't have seen that." In that moment, all illusions crumbled. Everything, the baby clothes, the silent nursery, the engagement, felt like an elaborate lie. And she was no longer sure what frightened her more, Henry's deceptions or how far he might go to keep them buried. Bianca stood at a crossroads in Henry's mansion, a place she once viewed as a gilded sanctuary. Now it felt more like a haunted palace built on secrets and betrayals. Trembling, she clutched the legal papers that hinted at a hidden marriage. Anger flared within her, mixing with heartbreak and disillusionment. "You never told me you were married," she accused, voice quivering. "You made me believe it was only an engagement with Annalise." Henry exhaled a ragged breath. "It was annulled, or at least that's what my lawyers assured me. She left me with no option, no closure. How could you let me burn those baby clothes, believing your story, when the reality was so much worse?" His face contorted. "You think I wanted any of this?" Annalise vanished, then demanded settlements through her lawyers. Every time I tried to find her, she slipped away. I believed I had the marriage annulled in her absence. "This," he gestured at the papers, "this is a ghost from the past." Bianca's fury cracked into desperate tears. "I can't trust you anymore. Our entire relationship is built on half-truths. I've been labeled your mistress, torn apart in the press, all for a lie." A stony silence settled before Henry reached out. "I do care about you. That's not a lie." She recoiled, the pain still fresh. "Maybe you do, but you also care more about winning, about controlling the narrative." At that moment, a thunderous knock echoed through the mansion. Henry's security hurried in, announcing visitors, a process server with Camilla's new legal demands, and a reporter from a major news outlet with a tip about Annalise. The walls were closing in. Henry turned to Bianca, eyes desperate. "Please, just stand by me. I'll fix this, I swear." But she had reached her breaking point. In a swift motion, she grabbed the fireplace poker and struck the base of a marble statue, sending it crashing. The resounding shatter mirrored her anguish. "No more lies, Henry. No more." Before the staff could intervene, she stormed out. The flashbulbs of paparazzi cut through the dark as she fled the mansion grounds, tears burning down her cheeks. She had no plan, just the need to escape the blazing wreckage of a life that had once seemed so glamorous. In the days that followed, Henry's empire teetered. Camilla's lawsuit gained traction, emboldened by the media circus. Whispers of Annalise's existence turned into a full-blown scandal. Investors questioned Henry's credibility. Several board members resigned. Sponsors withdrew from philanthropic events. And then, an explosive piece of investigative journalism hit the internet, a comprehensive expose tying Henry's manipulations, the suspicious disappearance of Annalise, and the sensational burning of baby clothes into a single, damning narrative. Suddenly, the mistress burned all the baby clothes, and the millionaire helped her light the match story, turned from tabloid gossip into a public reckoning. The world demanded answers. Bianca, watching from a distance, realized that their single act of burning those clothes had ignited more than just old fabric. It had set ablaze an entire network of lies. Yet, ironically, it also freed her. With everything exposed, she could finally see Henry's world for what it was, a mansion built upon illusions, ready to collapse under the heat of its own secrets. A part of her would always wonder if Henry truly loved her, or if she had merely been another puzzle piece in his carefully orchestrated life. But there was no going back now. The match had been struck, and the fire consumed everything in its path. In the aftermath, the city of Raleigh buzzed with the fallout. Henry Goodwin's name, once synonymous with philanthropy and tech innovation, became a cautionary tale about ambition without accountability. A series of investigations into his company's dealings delayed new product launches. Board members distanced themselves, focusing on damage control. Camilla Rossi, emboldened by the scandal, doubled down on her lawsuit, seeking not just financial restitution, but a public apology for the years of alleged marginalization. As for Bianca Worthington, she moved back in with her parents in the suburbs, her tall, lean silhouette now weighed down by sorrow. The life she once craved, glamorous parties and front-page photos, was no longer a dream, but a nightmare she couldn't wake from. Staring at her old room's plain white walls, she confronted a quiet truth. Her ambition to escape the ordinary had led her into a labyrinth of lies. Local stations clamored for an exclusive interview with the mistress who burned the baby clothes. At first, Bianca refused. But as the tabloids spun ever wilder theories, some accusing her of orchestrating the entire scandal, she realized she needed to speak out. One crisp morning, she sat in a modest studio across from a sympathetic reporter who asked the question on everyone's mind, "Why would you burn baby clothes? Was it out of malice, or heartbreak, or something else entirely?" Bianca answered, her voice steady. "It wasn't an act of spite, it was an attempt to move forward for both of us." Henry had a past that haunted him, baby clothes, tied to a loss he couldn't let go of. "We thought that by burning them, we could put the pain behind us. It was naive." She paused, tears glistening in her eyes. "I regret the way it happened, but I can't regret seeking the truth. In the end, the fire consumed more than just fabric. It exposed everything we couldn't face." The interview went viral, garnering sympathy for Bianca. People who once labeled her a scheming mistress began to see her as a victim of Henry's manipulations. Meanwhile, the question still hovered: where was Annalise, and what role did she play in Henry's downfall? Then, in a twist that set the internet ablaze again, Annalise Carter Goodwin emerged. Through her lawyer, she released a brief statement clarifying her history with Henry. "We married in secret when we were very young and very much in love. A series of personal tragedies destroyed our relationship. I left to heal on my own terms. The matter of an annulment was not fully settled due to legal complexities and my choice to remain unreachable." She added, "I never wanted this scandal. I only wanted peace." This revelation shattered any lingering doubts about Henry's deception. The legal complications meant that Henry's engagement to Bianca was never legitimate. The public condemnation grew fiercer, overshadowing any possibility of him regaining the respect he once enjoyed. Still, Henry Goodwin was not a man to go down without a fight. He released his own statement, claiming he had been ill-informed by legal advisors about his marital status, that he bore no ill will toward Annalise, and that he was truly sorry for the pain inflicted on Bianca. Yet his words felt hollow. The city had watched his pattern of half-truths unfold in real time. Bianca, freed from his grasp, chose a different path. Spurred by her experiences, she decided to shift her studies from business administration to journalism, hoping to advocate for those ensnared in high-profile manipulations. She volunteered for a local women's shelter, speaking about the psychological toll of being publicly shamed. Over time, she found purpose in using her cautionary tale to educate young people about the risks of chasing superficial glamour. Life did not instantly become magical or easy. Online trolls still left spiteful comments, brandishing old tabloid headlines as weapons. But Bianca found a sense of authenticity she'd never known while by Henry's side. Her parents stood behind her, proud of her resilience. As for Henry, he retreated into the shadows selling properties, dismantling parts of his empire to settle lawsuits and trying to salvage what was left of his brand. Rumors placed him in Europe, possibly Switzerland, forging new alliances with obscure tech investors. But the Henry Goodwin, who once dazzled Raleigh's elite, was gone, replaced by a cautionary figure whose name would forever be linked to scandal. In the end, the story that began with a match and a stack of baby clothes became a symbol of how a single spark can illuminate the darkest corridors of deceit. For Bianca, the flames also brought a necessary reckoning. She emerged from the ashes, carrying the scars, but also the wisdom earned through heartbreak. No longer a mistress nor a social climber, Bianca Worthington was something far more resilient, a survivor who understood the dangerous allure of unbridled ambition and the destructive power of secrets left to smolder in the dark. Sometimes the fiercest fire is what sets us free. Bianca Worthington discovered that the flames which destroyed a heartbreaking past also illuminated hidden truths too dark to remain buried. Henry Goodwin learned that no amount of wealth or influence can shield you from the consequences of deception. And for all of us, this tale stands as a reminder. When ambition and secrets collide, the sparks can ignite an inferno that no one can contain. If this dramatic journey moved you, if you felt the intensity of Bianca's heartbreak and Henry's unraveling, then please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Your support helps us bring you more gripping stories filled with scandal, emotion, and life lessons. Join our community, ring the notification bell, and stay tuned for the next saga. Because in a world where truth can be stranger than fiction, there's always another story waiting to be told.